Commander, mission completed. Now, we got to get back to the 200. All of us. Don't be so daft. A captain can leave his ship if there's a bus standing by. Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about the 2009 Easter special, Planet of the Dead. Written by Russell T Davies and Gareth Roberts, and is directed by James Strong. So we got a good set of people in terms of quality of their work. I mean, Gareth Roberts, personality-wise, not a very good person. But anyway, let's keep on topic of the story at hand. This story was one of the 2009 specials leading up to the end of time. David Tennant's finale story, his swan song, if you will. And this is also Doctor Who's only Easter special. And I wish we did get more specials for different holidays like this. I mean, I got kind of sick of the Christmas specials, and it seems like with the Chris Chibnall era, we're having a bunch of New Year's specials. Why don't we just have change it like every year? Where is our Halloween special? That we are overdue for a Doctor Who Halloween special. What about St. Patrick's Doctor Who episode? What about St. David's? What about Mother's Day? What about bloody Hanukkah? Come on, BBC, you know you want to. Now this story is notable for a few reasons. One of it being that it was actually the first story to be filmed with HD digital cameras. Technically, it's not the first HD story, as the third Doctor story, Spearheads from Space, was filmed completely with film, meaning that it could easily be digitalized in true HD. And also, as well, Doctor Who, the TV movie. So, this is the first story where HD was in mind when they filmed this. They also filmed in Africa for the majority of the story during the scenes in the desert. But probably one of the most noteworthy things for us Doctor Who fans, well, actually there's kind of two. One of it is, technically, it's the 200th story in the Doctor Who televised canon. So there's a little reference to that by the fact that the bus that they get on is called the 200. But more importantly, the bus is the first bus in a bus story. For those of you who have no idea what the hell I'm on about, bus stories are basically a status quo or a particular type of Doctor Who story where you have the Doctor, his TARDIS crew, and a handful of characters basically stuck in a small location where you have basically the threat coming towards them, and on every side as our basically characters are going to have to try and survive in this limited space. It's a classic status quo for the show, especially during the second Doctor era, with David Tennant actually having a pretty handful of great bus stories under his belt. Most importantly, the last bus story that David Tennant appeared in, Midnight, one of the best Doctor Who stories ever made. But then that brings us back to this story, because this story has a reputation for just not being that good. A lot of people consider it a really boring and forgettable experience. Do I agree? Do I feel like this story might be a bit underrated? We'll find out when we talk about this. But before I start, I just want to point out that though I do have the DVD and it got the official BBC cover right there, I haven't actually had time to print out my region, because if you watch these marathon videos, I print out my own covers to make it fit with the classic series. I haven't done that yet. I am planning to, but for the moment I can't show you what it's going to look like. Presumably I'm going to be using the Christopher Doctor Who DVD covers, which you can easily find online if you're interested in that kind of thing. So, anyway, the pre-credit sequence is an introduction to one of our characters, the surrogate companion, or one-off companion. It's a bit hard to tell because she's technically a surrogate companion, but at the same time, the Doctor is companionless and she only has one adventure, so one-off companion, surrogate companion. The actress actually considers herself to be a companion. Michelle Ryan, I believe that's how you pronounce her name. And she plays Lady Christina, this aristocrat cat burglar. The first time we see her in the story opens it up with this Mission Impossible scene, which for a fun action scene, for a silly little adventure, it's a really fun and entertaining scene where you have the bodyguards really serious, and it's like, right, we must protect this gauntlet, the Grail, I think the Doctor says something, it's like it was a present from the King of the Welsh to the first King of England, or something like that. And you got these soldiers coming up, you got the laser beams, but right off the bat you can kind of get that there's something that's not clicking with the story, as Lady Christina, she comes down seemingly from the roof and she collects the item and has this kind of Indiana Jones moment where she swaps it for something else, which I don't think you actually get a proper look, but it's actually like one of those like lucky cat things, and she goes up back into the ceiling, but then it cuts to her in the corridor. So did she go back in the building just so she can walk off? I don't know. But the scene leads then into her basically getting run by the police, as seemingly her boyfriend gets captured by the police, and she seems to have little remorse on letting him get arrested for her, as she basically runs off and tries to escape, and she notices that there are these familiar cops around, and she basically, to try and take cover, she gets on a bus. Whilst on the bus, a strange figure seems to have walked on, wearing some really familiar shoes and has psychic paper which apparently can make him, which works as a free bus pass, as sitting next to Lady Christina is the Doctor, and he introduces himself with Happy Easter, as he gives her a piece of his chocolate egg. And that's the pre-credit sequence. It is really fun, but I think it does a very poor job at setting up the story, because it means that when we come back into the credits of the story, we also get another setup for the story. We get two setups back to back, and it's really jogged. And also as well, the setup for the actual story doesn't make a lick of sense, if we're gonna be honest. I mean, fair enough when it comes to the portal that opens to this other world, and our characters fall into it, and the only reason they survived is because they're on the bus. As I stated, it's kind of funny that we finally got a bus story that features an actual bus as the base. But there you go. But in this scene, this basically Lady Christina hides in the bus, and all the police know that she's on it, so they chase after the bus with the sirens going off and the police chasing and all that. The bus doesn't stop. What? What was the bus driver thinking? Is he actually working with Christina? We don't know too much about him because he gets quickly killed earlier on in the episode. But it's a really strange error in my part because it's just so weird because when that scene plays, I'm just literally shouting at the TV, why doesn't the bus driver stop? It's so clear it's because we want to get the story forward. Now, what I find really strange about this story, what I also kind of find kind of interesting, is that despite this being essentially a special, I don't know how long it is. They usually say on the back. It's an hour long. This is an hour-long episode. However, in terms of plot, it has the same amount as your average Doctor Who episode. As soon as they go through the portal, I like the scene where the Doctor, he's got this gizmo and all of the characters. He's annoying everybody on the bus, and everybody kind of thinks he's just being weird and quirky. And Lady Christina has kind of been amused by him until the Doctor just asks her for her name and is just like, "Hold on tight." As suddenly it's just the atmosphere shifts from this serious to the serious tone as the bus lands in this seemingly on another planet, as it has 3 suns and it's completely part of a desert. Like you can see it, it's just completely sand. And it's here then that the story kind of really tries to slow down and tries to get us, because bus stories are mostly character driven. That's what makes them work so well. We get introduced to a handful of characters which only appear in this story. So it's apart from the Doctor and his associate companion, anybody is up for death essentially. And so a great bus story needs great characters. And I feel like this is where Planet of the Dead criticisms, or at least one of the criticisms it gets, is kind of justified. Because a lot of people, when they talk about this story, they hate, and I mean absolutely hate, 2 particular characters. But before I get into them, I want to talk about the rest of the characters, because they're essentially a non-entity. Think back to stories like Midnight or Fury from the Deep. We get these handful of characters that we can memorize. We feel like we know them, that we hang around with them, and we do have this attachment that when they die or something bad happens to them, we as an audience member do have this kind of tension, and that it makes the story better. However, for the majority of the part, the main group isn't in danger compared to the Doctor and his companion in this story. So when we cut to them, they're only doing these kind of mundane things, which really slows down the pace of the story. And there's just nothing really noteworthy on them. I wouldn't say they're bad. I wouldn't say they're annoying. They just have nothing sticking with them. There's a scene where the Doctor is basically tries to calm everybody down by making them remember why they took the bus. Where were they going? Going home, seeing your girlfriend. You've lost your job, so you just wanted to go home and have breakfast. You were gonna have a meal indoors. Just think about that. Keep that to yourself. And that is a really great scene. Don't get me wrong. If this story does anything right, in my opinion, it's the 10th Doctor. David Tennant is knocking it out of the park in this story. I am telling you. David Tennant in his last years are some of the best performances he has given, especially in the later half of Series 4. That is no joke. That's some of the best acting in Doctor Who, period. But anyway, let's talk about the 2 characters that get this story a lot of slack. Who should we start off with first? Let's talk about I can't remember her name, but she is this elderly woman who has psychic abilities. We learn that essentially she has this gift. She's been winning the lottery every day, and she's been winning £10 every day, which is mental. And she constantly prophesies that there is this death, that something is coming, and this evil, that something evil coming, and there's this massive danger, and everybody is going to be slaughtered. She is basically prophesizing everyone's death. And a lot of people hate her, mainly for the fact that it seems really convenient for the plot that she's psychic. I do kind of see that, but I feel like the story does actually do a good job at justifying it. She is explained to have psychic abilities, and in Doctor Who canon, humans having psychic abilities is a thing. Think back to stories like Planet of Spiders, for example, where you have characters that can kind of see the future and kind of sense other people's emotions, empaths. And this woman is one of them, and as the Doctor explains at one point, being on this alien planet, being on a world with 3 suns, it's basically heightened her ability. So, in that regard, it doesn't really bother me that much, although in terms of plot, she is just there to constantly try and put some tension by constantly reminding us that there is this death, that there's this swarm coming for our characters, and at the end of the story, just to give a little spoiler, she warns the Doctor that it's returning from the darkness. He will knock 4 times. So that was like a build-up, a tease to the end of time. And a lot of people feel like her inclusion in the story was just and simply to have that build-up. I'm not quite sure. I mean, of course she is. But in terms of her being integrated into the story, I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be. So, that out of the way, let's talk about the real issue with the story. The big one. The one everybody makes a fuss about. Lady Katrina... Oh, I can't remember her name. Lady Christina D'Souza, I think her name is. This aristocrat cat burglar who has this thrill for adventure, and she is basically she's kind of royalty because she is a lady, and she has this this bossiness attitude about her, and she's loving every moment that she's in, and people really hated her. So it's absolutely funny. It is absolutely hilarious to learn she has 2 series of Big Finish spin-off audio dramas dedicated to her. A very unpopular character gets a Big Finish spin-off. Proving a Big Finish will just give anybody a story. Do I find her annoying? Do I find her frustrating? A lot of the times, I will admit, yes, she does kind of degrading. She's basically the blank sheet companion when it comes to her relationship with the Doctor. Her and the Doctor, in terms of this companion dynamic, really just feels weak, as every scene they're in is just her basically googly eyes and just going, "Wow, Doctor, you're amazing! You're this fantastic person." Though I will admit, I do think that there are some genuinely good scenes with them. A great example is when like the debating on, there's this like competition between the 2 of them. It's like Doctor Who. It's like the Doctor. Oh my god, I called him Doctor Who. That's really weird. It's like the Doctor in some capacity in terms of his ego, has kind of met his match, as they have these competitions where it's like, are they prepared for everything? And the Doctor uses his sonic screwdrivers to make his reading glasses into sunglasses. And when it's about finding a leader, finding somebody to take charge, the two of them debate. And that's mainly where the story is focused on. It's mainly focused on these two. And I will admit, I do think there is something to Lady Christina. And I am personally interested in those Big Finish audio dramas. Her out of Doctor Who context, I think does have the potential to be not only a good character, but also a good protagonist. But this story doesn't give her much to do, much favours, and a majority of her scenes are one-dimensional and one-note, and basically there's not really much heart to it. It feels very, not contrived, I'm trying to think of a good word for it. Basic, simple, unemotional, disconnected. Yeah, disconnected is a perfect word for it. The character relationship between her and the Doctor feel really disconnected, and I think as soon as they had like a full conversation with each other, I knew that she wasn't going to become a recurring character. There was just that feeling that, you know, she was just not going to stick, in my opinion. And so we get, the Doctor gets in contact with Unit at one point, and then here is where we get one of the strangest facts in Doctor Who history, in my opinion. Because after a nice return of a Unit soldier character from the story Turn Left, basically the Doctor gets Unit to get in contact with their more current scientific advisor, a character named Malcolm. Why is this interesting? What's the big deal about this? Well, you see, Malcolm is played by superstar comedian Lee Evans. And Lee Evans, if you've known his work and you know his stand-up roles, he has this character that he jokes around about, named Malcolm. The Malcolm that Lee Evans says in his stand-up is a canonical Doctor Who character. What the hell? And I just want to state as well, back in 2009, I was a massive, and not just me, my entire family, I say my entire family, my close family, my parents and my brothers at the time, we were all massive fans of Lee Evans. We grew up on Lee Evans, me and my family. To see him in Doctor Who and see him playing Malcolm in Doctor Who is so strange. And I will admit, when I watched this for the first time, that did kind of like, poof, that is really cool. And there's a lot of fuss. In fact, there he is. There he is. Bloody Malcolm is a Doctor Who character. That is just something. I must be honest. In the story, there's not really much to talk about him. He's just this quirky Welshman. Lee Evans has a pretty decent, kind of decent Welsh accent. Even though it is put it on a bit, but it does kind of sound genuine. He's a very quirky character who's like obsessed with the Doctor, and he talks about how he basically came up with his own measurements to measure something to do with the wormhole. One is Malcolm's, and another one is actually Bernard, which he named after Bernard Quatermass, who, thanks to stories like Remembrance of the Daleks, is a canonical Doctor Who character as well. So, Malcolm is a fan of Quatermass, but not like the show, but is in the actual person. So there's just this lot of just headcanon in these strange cameo scenes of Lee Evans, which is probably more interesting than the story itself. Because when the Doctor and Lady Christina start investigating the planet, they discover this broken ship, and as well they meet these alien creatures, these bug-like creatures. Originally in the script, because the script went through multiple different rewrites. In fact, the first script had basically very little resembling to its end result. But one of the ideas was actually to bring a monster from Gareth Roberts' Seventh Doctor novels from the Virgin New Adventures. I can't remember the code, but they're basically murderous turtle aliens. Originally, it was the plan to bring them into the TV show and basically having a strong canon connection to the novels. They basically stated that the Virgin New Adventures novels are definitively canon. However, I don't know if it was rights problems or the suits weren't plausible, but just never came to be. And so instead we have these really poor looking bug creatures. Like I say with most revived series Doctor Who, I still highly appreciate that they do like these makeups and these model works and got these robotics and stuff as opposed to just CGI in it. I feel like despite the costume not really doing a very good job, it's still better than just CGI in it. Come on. So I will appreciate it on that note. But the Doctor basically discovers these two aliens, and we learn that they came to this planet to make a bargain, a deal, to trade essentially with this planet. And within a year, the entire planet turned to sand. It's not a desert out there. That's not sand. That's a city being demolished by these stingray-like entities with metal bodies that basically swarm and they travel around the planet, and they can literally eat anything. Eat flesh, metal, stone, you name it. They eat everything and devour everything. And they go around the planet so quick that they open a wormhole and they all go into the wormhole, and then they basically start again on a different planet, eating everything in their path. And with the wormhole leading to Earth, this becomes a massive dilemma in the story. And one of my favourite facts about this story, which I believe comes from like this book that Russell T Davies wrote about all the Doctor Who scripts, where he said that basically the bug creatures, it was decided right at the very beginning that they were going to die, because we would just had this awkward ending where we'd have these bug creatures on Earth. So it was quickly decided that they should be killed by this stingray creature, as we get the Doctor. Basically, Lady Christina goes down to try and get this diamond, and the Doctor learns that she has stolen this cup, and the Doctor basically confronts her about her life, her lifestyle, and her life choices, and there's this kind of resentment to her, but he kind of also sees something in her, as he also stole the TARDIS. I personally don't find the connection that interesting. Christina, yeah, she likes the adventure, she wants the adventure, and that's why she burgles. She could have just travelled. Like, the Doctor, yeah, also stole the TARDIS, but that is because the Time Lords had this like non-interfere, like they don't explore at all. They just stay in these cities forever, and so the Doctor stole the TARDIS so he can escape. He does it to basically reward himself of the freedom that he now possesses. Christina steals because she just likes stealing. Essentially, there is this in the dialogue. It's like oh yeah, I do it because because my father is bankrupt, but I feel like the scene implies that she didn't actually mean that, and that was just like a route, like to knock the doctor off the scent, as the doctor quickly points out. It's like, no. If you have money problems, you steal a bank. If you stole like this magnificent artifact, then it's a hobby. So burglary is a hobby. So the story tries to make that connection there. That kind of like in terms of ego, they're both similar. But personally, because of that, mainly that fact, it's not as interesting as it would be. And the ending itself isn't that interesting, as it's just the story ends really, in my opinion, really hollowy. It feels like the story just has this like upbeat ending and stuff, but none of the characters really learn anything. The majority of characters that were supposed to be part of this bus, we spend hardly any time with. So when we get to the climactic ending and we get the Doctor and Lady Christina like kissing the Doctor, it just feels really hollow. It feels like what many use as a criticism, the Hollywood ending, where it's like everybody wins, everybody gets a good ending, and nobody really learns anything. It's just dangers out of the way as Unit take down 3 stingrays, as Malcolm closes the portal. There's this I like this scene where there's a scene in which the Doctor basically, he gets asked by Lady Christina to like, let's go and travel, take me with you, and the Doctor just says like, no, because people I travel with, they disappear, they hurt and stuff. Similar to like how the next Doctor ends, which becomes like a recurring theme in a sense. Not really, now that I think about it, because it only really happens in these 2 stories, but who cares? So Lady Christina gets arrested, only for the Doctor to use a sonic screwdriver to let her free, and she get out of her handcuffs, and she escapes, and she uses the bus, which the Doctor has augmented with alien technology, to fly, so that she can now star in a Big Finish audio drama's adventures. There's this really great line which makes me laugh every time, where the policeman, played by John Pertwee's godson, fun fact, he basically is like, points to the Doctor and is like, I'm arresting you for like helping Lady Christina, and he's like, yes, okay, I'll just lock myself in that blue police box and arrest myself, as he just walks off to the TARDIS. But not before that woman basically warns him it's returning from the darkness and he will knock 4 times. I don't know about you or anybody, a lot of people thought it could have been the creature from Midnight. Personally, there was no doubt in my head that this was a tease for the Master's return. I can't remember if the Master was announced to be in the final 2-parter at this point, but the 4 knocks, the 4 head beat. Or at least that's what I thought was heavily implying. And that is what it is heavily implying. So that's Planet of the Dead. Overall, is it bad? I think it's okay. I really can't get angry at it. I don't think it's as bad as people make out to be. It's a goofy adventure. There's some really great scenery shots, even though this is easily James Strong's weakest story in terms of him directing. Like, that distinct atmosphere he brings to his stories isn't here. This story feels like it's directed by a completely different person now that I bring it up. I know I haven't really talked about the visual style in this vlog, but yeah, I had to remind myself that this is a James Strong story. It seems really strange, and the fact that this is his last story makes me feel like he might have been tired with the franchise with this. But there are some few scenes to like. Though it does annoy a lot of people, there's nothing really that irritates me. Mostly it's just bland and forgettable for the majority of characters and scenes, with some really fun nice beats thrown in there for good measure, and David Tennant, of course, being fantastic as the 10th Doctor. So that's Planet of the Dead. So join me next time when Luke gets a shock as Sarah Jane has found the love of her life as she starts to get married, but somebody is crashing the wedding. So join me next time for the wedding of River Song. Sorry, the wedding of Sarah Jane Smith. And I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-ra!